Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
Come on along and welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Tuesday. Kevin Brockway sitting in, as always. Mac DeCourcy will be with us. Chronic, he's off today on vacation, so we'll think about him, but we've got plenty to get to. Lots to talk about as today is IU Basketball Media Day. There is just we're one step closer to football. We've got all kinds of stuff to go over in addition to Mike joining us. There's games that have been canceled. Make sure you go to the Hoosier.com for complete coverage of Indiana athletics and Big Ten sports. The Hoosier Daily gives you everything that's going on today. Alec Lasley's
September 17th
up there.
He's actually prior to that week.
Tight end Jeffrey Simmons talks interest in the Hoosiers. Archie Miller says this could be the toughest schedule in the entire country. How about Jordan Hulls? He's got a new deal. Of course, he's going back to Germany. Congratulations to him. It was so funny, Kevin. I was talking to Jordan on Friday about playing golf Sunday. And let's do that because I'll probably be leaving soon. And the next thing I know, I didn't hear back from him on Saturday. Sunday, it was late Saturday. He said, hey, I'm on a plane to Germany right now. He was gone. It was over. He signed a new deal that fast. It went that quickly that we talked about playing, and he had signed it. It was on a plane to Germany. That's how quickly they needed him over there. But that's how fast things move. But he announced on Monday he signed with the MHP Reisen Ludwigsburg for the upcoming season. He's played in Germany the last 5 seasons. It would be his first season in Ludwigsburg, though. It's currently a basketball Bundesliga, whatever that is. That's the first tier league in Germany. It's so hard. They have got so many leagues. I mean, we are all basketball crazy, but they are basketball crazy over there, Kevin.
Yeah, I used to joke there's a league for everyone, right? Because you see a lot of these Division I players, they go out there. But, listen, good for Jordan. I'm sure he signed a decent deal. It'll be another good year for him out there, and he'll, be able to, make some money. And he's doing, obviously, a lot of stuff in the grassroots community back in Indiana in the summers as well. I know he's got some, AAU travel teams going, which is good, helping the younger basketball players in the area as well.
But, go to the Hoosier.com, all the complete coverage there. You can also see the complete Tom Allen presser that you'll hear today that we met with him yesterday. Also, the Big Ten schedule is out. We know when Indiana's going to kick off, and it's a 3:30. It's a kind of a marquee game, man. They get in the 3:30 spot on Fox Sports 1 against Penn State in 2 weeks, or less than 2 weeks. Not a bad spot.
Yeah, and listen, deservedly so. I mean, it has a chance to be a pretty competitive game. I mean, certainly last year was. Anytime you got Penn State, top 10 team in the country, coming here. I looked this up. Indiana's last win against a ranked team actually came during the tail end of the Kevin Wilson era, and it was also a home game against Michigan State, overtime game, 23-20, back in October of 2016. So it's been 4 years since they've knocked off a ranked opponent. And, I didn't go deeper into the record books to see how long it's been since they've knocked off a top 10 opponent. But I'm sure that's been a while as well. So this is a real chance, and they're going to have chances during the season to, possibly, get that first win against a ranked opponent under Tom Allen. And I think this is kind of the year where you'd like to see that breakthrough and for them to get that statement win. As we've discussed on the show, Jim, they've beaten the teams that they're supposed to beat, which is, obviously the first step. But now the next step is to, break through against the big. I mean, they've been competitive with the big boys, obviously, but to break through and, maybe beat one of those 3 big teams, Penn State, Michigan. They're probably still a little miles away from Ohio State, but Penn State or Michigan, and certainly Michigan State, you want to get wins against one of those three teams within your division.
Yeah, there was a tweet yesterday that Crimson Quarry put out that I retweeted and added to that. But the most losses by a touchdown or less during the past decade, at the top was Pitt, and they just had 2 losses by a point. So they were probably tied with Indiana, who also has 30. UNC at 29. UNC currently in the top 5 in the country at 3-0. Mike Brown's got them turned around. Pitt started off 3-0. Their last 2 games, they've lost by a combined total of 2 points. But there you go right there. Indiana basically leads the nation in games lost by a touchdown or less over the last decade. And he put a chart out. And if you look through that chart, the majority of those losses are to a ranked Big Ten East opponent, which is nuts, because here we're talking about a program that has not gotten that win, yet they have been close beyond the number of times. It's mind-boggling if you look at this chart. It's just crazy that they have been that close that many times and not been able to kick that door open.
Who started the foundation earlier this decade, and it's I think it kind of says that this is a team that's on the cusp, but you have to take a look from a talent standpoint within the state, from a resources standpoint within the state. I mean, you're still talking about some of those major schools, Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State, that probably have more in that. They have better facilities, so they're going to attract better recruits. I think for Indiana, they're trying to close the gap in different ways. And I think Tom Allen's recruiting of the Southeast has been smart in terms of, maybe getting those guys somewhat overlooked by some of the SEC programs, but you're still getting some big, fast athletes down here. And I think that plays pretty well in the conference. And sooner or later, I think you're going to see that break through as he continues to compile talent. Line of scrimmage is another issue though too. You really need those big guys, and developing depth on both lines of scrimmage as well.
And I mentioned earlier, we spoke with Coach Tom Allen yesterday, as we have our weekly press conference with him on each Monday, and of course we're getting closer and closer to the start of Big Ten football. We're less than 2 weeks in now, but a week from this Saturday. But they're getting into where they have scrimmages each Saturday now, and the first question that we're going to hear from him is in reference to that second scrimmage, how that turned out, and how it looked. So let's hear Coach Allen on this past weekend scrimmage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate you guys joining us. Just kind of wrap up Saturday to start with. Was at our biggest scrimmage of fall camp on Saturday. Thought it was extremely productive. I had a goal going in of being able to have about 50 snaps for our 1s and 2s to be able to give them some live goes. That was extremely important in this process of our development. And a lot of good things, very competitive back and forth, both sides making plays. It did feel like we had a few more penalties than we did the first time that got to get cleaned up, and on both sides as well, and some mistakes, but we're still in the installation mode of things. That has ceased. Now everything is in the kind of the whole mindset of just fine tuning what you have, and then start working into Penn State here later in the week. But some guys that stuck out to me, Javon Swinton continues to make plays. Really encouraged by his consistency.
That was Coach Tom Allen talking about getting through that first scrimmage. They're past getting things implemented now, Kevin. They're just working on fine-tuning as we move forward. And you know what? The quality of play that I've seen has been great. These games have been fun. College football has been fun. We just watched a 4-overtime thriller with Texas and Oklahoma. Upsets. You've got everything there. That has been nuts. And speaking of upsets, how about the national champion and 3 games in, they've got 2 losses already. Florida goes down. That was a surprise to me. I thought that, man, that they were ready to roll, but hey, you never know, and they went down. So the upsets have been fun to watch, and even if it hasn't been an upset, so many games have been competitive and tight. It's just been awesome to watch.
Yeah, when I looked this up, I think 4 of the top 5 in the AP Top 25 scored 40 or more last week, and I think Florida was at 38. So, I think that tells you just that the pinball scores around the country and that the offenses are truly ahead of the defenses. And, Tom Allen even alluded to that in Saturday's scrimmage, that he felt like the offense is a little ahead. So, obviously, the lack of tackling, probably has hurt a lot of teams throughout the country. And it'll be interesting to see if that trend carries over in the Big Ten. I think it will. Because I think you've got some really good quarterback play in this league as well. So I think it's going to be I think you're going to see those high scores throughout the conference, particularly early in the season.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. And, of course, I spoke to Coach Allen as well. I asked him, when we're watching all these games, we watched all these teams go down. We've watched LSU go down twice. We saw Florida go down. Of course, most of these teams, it's been either ACC or SEC games we've been watching because the Big Ten's not out there yet. But, again, like I just mentioned, some of these teams go down. But I asked him, knowing what he's got coming back, and we know he's already excited, and Hoosier Nation's excited because they've got the most production coming back in the Big Ten offensively. But knowing that, watching those big teams go down, knowing that there's going to be the crowd issue is not going to be as big of a problem, is he getting excited thinking that, hey, this could be the year this program blows it out? Here's what the coach had to say.
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. We've all got to watch college football in this early part of the season, and we knew it was going to be a little crazy, but it has really been a topsy-turvy, the defending national champion, already with 2 losses. Watching those big brand teams go down and knowing what you have coming back, does that give you even more excitement of what potentially could be a monster season for this program?
Well, excitement and also a lot of nervousness because it's like, wow. It's been some crazy things. You're right. You called it. It's been, games that you just didn't expect to go a certain way. But yeah, I think it also gives you a lot of excitement and just say, hey, man, every game's going to be an adventure. And, you get a chance to go out there and there's a lot of variables that are not the way they usually are leading up to some of these circumstances. But I will say, a team like LSU, they had a lot of good players that they either graduated or are playing on Sundays right now. So, for them to come back was probably too much pressure on a really young team. But at the same time, that's reality, right? So they're expected to play at a high level, and that's what we all have to do. So, yeah, I think it's just we're just excited to play. I just think our guys are just so excited to get out there. And we obviously just today were able to announce at the end of practice that kickoff is going to be at 3:30, and we know for sure we're playing on Saturday. We really weren't even 100% sure about that leading up to it. So we know what the day we're starting on is the 24th. We're kickoff at 3:30. That gives us a specific date and time to get ready to roll, and so our guys are fired up. But yeah, it's I think it's just going to be one of those years. You can't get too high or too low. You just got to keep playing. I think that's going to be the key. Both in the games, you better be ready to play. We've seen games go to 3-4 overtimes already, and a lot of crazy things have happened on special teams and offense and defense, and you just got to have earmuffs and blinders in your preparation process. And during that game, it's that 1-0 mindset like we talk about all the time on offense, and just that's not blinking. We just aren't going to let anything phase us, good or bad. It happens in a game. We're going to play 60 minutes and beyond, whatever it's going to take to find a way to win each game. So we're just going to take it one at a time, but more than anything, I just want our guys to prepare well and then get out there and let it rip and play their tails off and have a ton of fun playing together for each other, with each other, and we'll see what happens at the end of the day.
Boom, that's all you can do right there. But, yeah, I could just tell when because you obviously couldn't see him when you hear Coach answer that question. But when I hit the excitement, and I can tell you in the back of his mind, he knows this could potentially be a monster season for this program because actually, to be truthful, last year should have been a monster season. It was a good season, but it could have been monster season because they could have easily won 3 more games. And he knows that possibility is there. And to be the guy that does it, and when no one else has been able to, that would be something.
You know what's been interesting, Jim, in camp we have yet to talk to Casey Teagarden or special teams, which, as we know, really played a big factor in some of these close games last year. I mean, it's just amazing to me how the margin for error, some of the punt returns, the onside kick against Tennessee, some of those games really came down to missed extra point by Logan Justice. Some of those games really came down to that aspect of the ball. And I think that's an aspect that, maybe with a little more depth, you clean up a little bit and maybe you find yourself on the right side of some of these one-score games.
Let's see. We got to hit a break. We're late, so I got to get here so we can get Mike DeCourcy in here. We've got plenty more to talk about. Trace Jackson Davis named to the third team of the Blue Ribbon. We'll talk about that. The AP Top 25. Plenty more. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Jim Coyle, Kevin Brockway said he and Mike DeCourcy up next, right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Hey, this is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you'll find complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, as well as coverage of the Big Ten. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio there each day at your convenience, or you can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make it tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
No matter where you are in life, here's a question to consider. Do you have the right financial advisor to help you navigate where you want to go? An Ameriprise advisor will take the time to truly understand what's important to you and help you prepare for whatever life brings, both the expected and the unexpected, by providing personalized advice based on your goals and needs, and regular reviews along with digital tools to help you stay on track. With an Ameriprise advisor, you can feel more confident, connected, and in control of your financial life. Call Dennis Schneider, Heath Schneider, or Nick Davis with Schneider & Associates, a private wealth advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services. Call 877-827-1404. That's 877-827-1404. See Dennis Schneider at 236 North Elm Street in Henderson and Heath Schneider or Nick Davis at 20 East Campground Road in Evansville. Ameriprise Financial Services, LLC. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Tuesday. Kevin Brockway sitting in with me, Jim Coyle here. And as always, we are joined by one of the best in the business, Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten Network, and Fox. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm doing very well, Jim. How are you?
Good, sir. How was your weekend?
The Steelers won, so it was great.
Yeah. Didn't you just post something about I was just reading something about the Steelers, but I was reading actually I think it's your latest piece about the copy of the 1960 World Series being found in Bing Crosby's wine cellar, a copy that nobody else had.
Yeah, that's an older piece. I just used that to sort of commemorate the fact that actually I think that was found like 10 years ago, and we published then around the 50th anniversary, and then eventually major MLB Network put that game on their air, and they had a grand opening or whatever you want to call it, premiere in Pittsburgh. It was a really cool thing. It's considered by many to be the greatest game in the history of baseball. It happened 60 years ago today. And certainly, whether it was the greatest game in the history of baseball, some would argue for Game 6 of the 76 World Series, or was it that 75? The Red Sox Reds that came
in the Reds.
That
75.
75, yeah. They played the Yanks in 76. But whether or not that was the greatest game, certainly Bill Mazeroski's home run is the greatest home run in the history of baseball. Don't give me your Bobby Thompson shot. Come on.
How was there not a copy, though? How was there not a copy? I would have thought a network or somebody. The fact that there was no copy.
You would think, but it was a long time ago, Jim. I can tell you that because I was around then. I wasn't old enough to remember the game, but I was around then, It became, even though I wasn't old enough to really know what was happening, it became really that home run became part of my childhood folklore, kind of, as I grew up as a baseball fan in Pittsburgh. And I later on got to meet Bill Mazeroski, and he is one of the sweetest people on the planet. He could not be nicer. When he got in the Hall of Fame 15, 20 years ago, whatever it was, he broke down in tears. He couldn't finish his speech. He is just the most genuine person, and I've never been happier for someone getting into a Hall of Fame than I was for Maz, and he's still with us, and blessedly still with us, and today's his day, man. And this is an interesting thing, and this is something that when I get retired and all that, I move back to Pittsburgh and stuff. They do this every year on October 13th. A group of people gathers at the spot where that wall, the left field wall in Forbes Field, still stands. The rest of the park is gone, but the wall is still there. And a group of people gathers at that wall every year on this day and listens to the entire game broadcast of that 10-9 victory for the Pirates and Maz's home run. So that is, you want to talk about a bucket list thing? I have got to do that.
Wow. That is amazing. And it's funny because it's such a part of your life. I'm sitting there. And as the next thing I was going to talk about was Joe Morgan and how, oh my gosh, the amount of outpouring that has been for him. My childhood, I grew up a Reds fan. I grew up watching the Big Red Machine, but how much of a part of our childhoods this so much was. And man, baseball has really taken a hit because I don't care about baseball like that anymore, unfortunately, but I care about those memories. And Joe Morgan passed away yesterday, and man, you talk about one of the greats of the greats. He was it. And but the amount of outpouring support of his passing has been awesome to see.
Yeah, Joe was an incredible player, an amazing player, and one of the some consider the greatest second baseman of all time. Certainly in that pantheon with Rogers, Hornsby, and some others. And it was interesting because as he went along, he was an excellent baseball announcer, in my opinion, and he had different views about baseball than the modern view. And so when that started to conflict with the modern view of baseball, he stood his ground about what he believed in, and the people who believed in the math more than the way the game had been played for 75, 85, 100 years, whatever it was, really were harsh on him. And I didn't think that was ever quite fair. I thought that was unnecessary. And it was one of the sort of the disappointing parts of yesterday was hearing people still feel like they needed to get their shot in. He was a terrible announcer. This is not me saying it. He was a terrible announcer, but what a great player he was. Oh, come on. I mean, give it up. It's a lot of what Joe said about the game was right. And it's manifesting itself in this playoffs, Jim, and it's manifesting itself in the decline of the game's popularity. I watched, I would be somewhat of a retired baseball fan if it weren't for my wife, who loves it and who very much loves the Reds. She worked with the Reds to open Great American Ballpark. She's in public relations, and she was the PR executive in charge of the implosion of Synergy Field and the project to construct and open Great American Ballpark. So she got to meet a lot of the people with the Reds and really fell in love with the team. And so we still watch. And I get, when I get involved with the team, I get involved. And so the Reds played in the wild card series, I guess they called it this time, against the Braves. And it just was, that was not fun watching. It was suspenseful, but it wasn't fun watching that game where they had 11 guys on base, 13 guys on base, 11 hits, and couldn't score a run because everybody strikes out in baseball all the time now. And they strike out all the time because they're trained now that the only thing that matters are line drives and home runs. And so they don't train them to make contact any longer. Well, there's a value to contact in certain circumstances and understanding how to handle the bat. And that's completely gone from the game now. So you had, I believe in that game, the final number was either 37 or 38 strikeouts in a 13-inning game. That is not fun to watch. And Joe was right about that. And everybody shouted him down when he was announcing for ESPN. And now 10, 15 years later, whatever it is, you can see he was 100% right about certain parts of his instincts about what baseball should be.
And walks too, Jim. Don't Mike. Billy Beane revolution is the fact that a lot of these players are getting into deeper counts, and that's causing them to strike out.
Yeah, Kevin, the thing about it is that when I look at it, everybody is now playing this way. So just about everybody. So what's interesting is, in reality, you have just as many people playing losing baseball in this fashion as you do winning baseball. The whole idea of exploiting inefficiencies, which was the Billy Beane theory, the exploiting inefficiency, is now gone because the inefficiency is there are 3 defenders on one side of the base, depending on if it's a right-handed or left-handed hitter, and none on the other side. But nobody exploits the inefficiency of being able to hit through the obvious hole. Almost no one. I shouldn't say no one. Almost no one exploits that inefficiency. So it really, baseball has become collectively forcing itself into this small box that's less entertaining to watch, that's less appealing to fans. And as a result, the game baseball's not dying, but it sure as heck is not growing.
I agree. I could not agree more. As I mentioned earlier, it used to be something that was a big part, and now I'm just, but hopefully it comes back around. Another name that obviously we talked about a lot in the last few days, Greg Marshall, not in a positive way either, but it's sad to see stuff like that out there. I don't know if it's true, not true. Otherwise, I'm not here to judge, but the fact that it's out there and still going on, it's just sad to see.
Yeah, Greg's a great coach, and that's why what's disappointing about it is that there are ways to be harsh as a coach. If you're not harsh, you better be really gifted. I'm not sure that I've encountered very many. It's some of the most genial coaches that Bill Self can really get into a guy. But you get into the way it has to be done now is you have to be able to get into that player, but have him or her understand that it's about the play and it's not about the person. And I think that what was indicated in Jeff Goodman's article about Wichita State is that there are many players who've gone through there and some coaches who've gone through there who feel it crosses over that line. And obviously, in the most egregious allegation, it crossed the line. Actually, I should say allegations. It crossed the line with one assistant coach in one episode, and then with a player into the physical. And that's, that's really that just can't happen in modern college basketball, modern college athletics. Just can't happen. And so I found it interesting that in his response, Greg Marshall said that he acknowledged that he is very demanding. He said he does not abuse his players, but he never denied the specific allegation. And I don't know whether that was an omission or whether that was an acknowledgement. So I'm not sure. He acknowledged that he did speak with the attorneys who are conducting Wichita's investigation. But what's interesting is, we're 1 day away from the permitted start of practice. And so I don't know what Wichita's circumstance is going to be relative to Greg. I would think they're going to have to make a decision relatively soon, whether or not they're going to move forward or whether they're going to at least put a pause button on this. They've got basically 26, 27 hours to make up their minds about whether just to go ahead and roll the balls out and get going, or whether they're going to at least withhold Greg until they complete their examination.
Yeah, and you can imagine the difficulty of Matt alone dealing with the COVID and testing and everything else that goes along with it. So it stinks for Wichita State, but we'll see how they manage to get through that. Something else that has been fun to watch, something that has been fun to watch, these football games. These college games, Mike, the unexpected results. We've seen who thought LSU would lost twice in their first 3 games. The Florida loss, the Texas, Oklahoma, Matt. It's been a crazy college football season, but crazy in a very fun way.
It has been entertaining. I kind of had a feeling that there would be at least some more upsets than there usually are, because of the fact that preparation was different, because of the fact that some teams may not take the field at full strength, because of the fact that home crowd is not as big a factor now. In a lot of, really in all places, it's not as big a factor. And in some places, you're playing in a virtually empty stadiums, and in the Northeast, at times they have been specifically empty stadiums. So that plays a part in how the games turn out as well. So it has been fun, and it goes back to what we've talked about on multiple occasions, that as much as we want to get back to the to safely being able to congregate at games and concerts and theater and all those sorts of things, movies, I think the one thing that we've been reminded is that you can have a heck of a fun game even if there's not much of a crowd watching it. It really is about the sport itself.
And then now you talk about bringing COVID into the mix. Now we've seen, who was it? Missouri, Vandy. That game's been postponed. Missouri after that big win over LSU. But there's a game being postponed. We've seen the numbers really rising around the country. Like my daughter's soccer team, there's playoffs have started, but they can't practice because of the rising numbers. It's just getting a little scary out there. I hope that we saw the numbers from Indiana come out yesterday. Kevin, we were on with Coach Allen. Their numbers are exceptional. Hope that they stay there, but it gets a little scary as we see these numbers just skyrocket.
Absolutely, and everybody has to be careful and safe and follow the recommended mitigation. I have been doing that. I have not. I've only eaten 3 meals in a restaurant since this started, and 2 of them were outdoors, and all of them were specifically because I was away for a week at some family events, and even at those family events, continued to maintain social distance. It's just there's too much at stake to not take seriously the recommendations of the medical experts. And I know that a lot of people are frustrated and want to get back to the lives that they have led for all their lives. But the way to do that is to follow these guidelines in the near term, and then we can all get back to the way we want things to be that much sooner.
And Mike and Kevin both with that in mind, and we've seen it with the Big Ten starting later, that narrows their window down. What happens if they have to cancel games? Are they going to have any room for postponements?
You know, Jim, I talked to Wyatt Davis a couple of weeks ago. Wyatt Davis, great offensive guard for the Buckeyes, and he specifically said, look, we understand. We want to be, we're doing – he came actually back from the NFL draft list, so to speak. He had opted out when it looked like there was going to be no Big Ten fall football. And then as soon as he heard there was going to be, he bought his plane ticket to go back to Columbus. He wants to be a part of this team. He wants to play for the college football playoff championship. And he said, we understand that we have a very narrow window. We want to get every game in because we may need every one to qualify. If they're 6-0, maybe the committee doesn't take them. At 8-0 with a championship game win, they probably would. So they know they not only have to win every game, but they have to play every game. And the way to do that, the best way they can do that, is by following the guidelines and not going to bars and parties and those sorts of things. Doing their class online, working out, staying a lot at the facility, being very careful, and that's 75, 100 guys that have to do that. It's a lot of people, a lot of moving parts. So everybody's got to be on board and understand that if they want this thing to happen in the way that the NBA did, they had to spend 3 months in a bubble. Now you have to sort of create your own bubble if you're the Buckeyes or any other team in the Big Ten so that you can get all those games in.
Absolutely. Mike, what do you have coming out next? You always got something great.
Yeah, I told you about that big project, and it's bigger than I thought it was going to be. I'm toward the end of it now. It will come out tomorrow to celebrate the first day of college basketball practice across the country. I think I can say now that it's going to be about the last dynamite day of college basketball that we all experienced. I don't think anybody can catch up to me on this now. And it's a comprehensive look at how that day went down, what it meant, and what the aftermath was. And we'll publish that tomorrow to celebrate the first day of college hoops.
We'll look forward to it and make sure that everybody gets to see it because I can't wait to read it. Cannot thank you enough, as always, for joining us here on the program, man. I look forward to doing it next week as we get closer and closer to Big Ten football.
Thanks, Jim and Kevin. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. The great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten Network, and Fox Sports as well. Joining us here on the program, we've got lots more coming up. Stay tuned. Indiana Sports Beat. Back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Hey, this is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you'll find complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, as well as coverage of the Big Ten. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio there each day at your convenience, or you can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make it tea time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
No matter where you are in life, here's a question to consider. Do you have the right financial advisor to help you navigate where you want to go? An Ameriprise advisor will take the time to truly understand what's important to you and help you prepare for whatever life brings, both the expected and the unexpected, by providing personalized advice based on your goals and needs, and regular reviews along with digital tools to help you stay on track. With an Ameriprise advisor, you can feel more confident, connected, and in control of your financial life. Call Dennis Schneider, Heath Schneider, or Nick Davis with Schneider & Associates, a private wealth advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services. Call 877-827-1404. That's 877-827-1404. See Dennis Schneider at 236 North Elm Street in Henderson and Heath Schneider or Nick Davis at 20 East Campground Road in Evansville. Ameriprise Financial Services, LLC. Member FINRA and SIPC.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Texas sun. When I'm far from home.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Tuesday. Kevin Brockaway sitting in with me, Jim Coyle here. Hitting up on the text line, 812-269-6367. 812-269-6367. You can do that. We can, we'll read those anytime, so don't worry about it being while we're on. Tim hit the text line, says, is this the year? This year's going to be as crazy that IU beats Penn State and others to lead the Big Ten? No, they're not going to lead the Big Ten. They're not going to beat Ohio State. But, yes, I think this could be a crazy year. I firmly believe this could be a year that Indiana does not only get a big win, that they could possibly get two. It is a grand possibility that they're, for a number of reasons, we'll talk more about that. Alan, Biscuit Head, Asheville, North Carolina. If you go down to the Maui Classic looks like great food. Seen this place on the Food Network last night, so there you go. I don't know that they're allowing fans there, so. Ryan from Lower Michigan. I am excited for some IU football. Coach is the best. And Ryan from Northern Indiana. I'll be listening here today. Let's see, he's playing some golf. So he's down in Bloomington. Welcome in. Thanks a lot for listening, man. We appreciate all you guys. Kevin, we talked about the COVID testing, and you can get that clip ready, but we met with Coach Allen yesterday, and one of the things that you asked him was about the COVID testing, because these teams have done so well. Indiana's done really well as a team, and he gave the numbers out, like 3,016 tests they've committed or done, and 2 student athletes and 2 staffers. That's it. That's remarkable. But here's what Coach Allen had to say.
Well, I think that, anytime it gets close to what you're going to be, preparing for, that's a great motivator, to be able to further your way from it. It's more challenging because it doesn't seem as real. Like I said, I think for our guys, we had some bumps along the way, but once that reality was, hey, we got to do this a certain way, and they figured it out, it's been way better. And then now as the games get closer, I think that helps. But, I'm just being real with you here too. I think that, we addressed this with our staff yesterday, and that is the fact that, we all, we don't live in a bubble, so we all go home, at night, we don't sleep in the stadium, so our families, we have children, some of our coaches' kids are in different ages of school, here locally, and spouses have jobs, interact with other people. So, those are concerns. We talked about the choices that you have to make as a family, and who you choose to hang out with and be around away from here is critical, because that can be brought to the family, through whatever gathering you might have. So we have to limit those. We just can't do that right now. We're going to have to make some sacrifices. So we talk about that with our coaches. We talk about that with our players. It's a constant conversation. And I know it's no fun. And it's not what anybody wants to do. I have family as well that wants to come to the games, and it looks like they may be able to come, but I'm not going to be able to spend any time with them. I can't hang out with them. I can't go, like we usually do afterwards. And so that's just a tough part of the reality we're in right now, but we want to be able to play these games, and we're going to have to make sacrifices. Families are going to make sacrifices, and extended families are going to make sacrifices. We got to talk to our parents about when they come to visit their children, watching our players play. They're going to have to be really, really good about that. So it's just any contact that you have with any of our players or our coaches that are in this, that we have this number of 170 that are those people that are going to be on the field with this football team. We're trying to protect that group in every way possible. So is it challenging? Yes, it is. Very challenging, but we're not going to quit talking about it. And so far we're doing some good things, but it has to continue.
Coach Tom Allen talking about dealing with the COVID testing and how it's affected them and how it affects their lives and how they have to every day affect how they approach life and living, Kevin. They don't live in a bubble, but you have to pretend that you live in a bubble.
Yeah, and this is what they're going to have to do to pull this off. And not just them, but other teams throughout the country. And we've seen some be successful, but then, as you mentioned earlier, you have that COVID outbreak at Vanderbilt, for example. You've had the COVID outbreak at Notre Dame, where they lost about 2 or 3 weeks, and it came down to a team meal, right? Apparently that they had, and one kid got sick, and next thing you know, you have 20 or 30 people on the team testing positive. So I think, Jim, it's you got to really stay vigilant all the time if you're going to want to pull this season off. And I know that Elton Hayes and I at CNHI were just kind of the reason why I asked that question is we are going to be working on a story next week about can the Big Ten pull this off, especially considering that you don't have the wiggle room. It's 9 games in 9 weeks. These conferences that started earlier had the wiggle room built in. The Big Ten doesn't really have that. What are they going to do? I mean, they could maybe push a game back to a Monday, possibly, but you don't really have much wiggle room beyond that. Otherwise, you're just going to have to, forfeit games. They do have the advanced rapid testing, I think, which will be helpful too in terms of, pulling players out and isolating players. But I think the responsibility first starts with all the teams that are involved.
I agree. IU Basketball Media Day today as well. We've got that to deal with once we get through the show. So that'll be going on site, on location for that. But so this is a long day set out so that today is IU Basketball Media Day. That means we're closer to basketball season as well. Even though we haven't even started the football season yet, ironically, but all getting there. That in and of itself, you've got basketball now to look forward to. I just talked about these numbers are skyrocketing, and we hope that we can get through the season. And it's much more critical for football because you have less opportunities, you have less games, and it's not like you can postpone a game as easily as you could basketball. And it's just much more difficult. Everything has to line up for football, but it's got to do the same for basketball. They have to be just as diligent.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting later this afternoon, talking to Archie Miller, talking to a lot of the players. We'll get to talk to Christian Lander, for the first time since he's been on campus, which certainly will be exciting. And I think that I kind of put together a little story about, what some of the national people think. And, most of them predict Indiana to be in like the 7-8 in the Big Ten range. Most of them predict, I've seen anywhere ranging from 36 nationally to Andy Katz, who had him 18 nationally, had him in the top 25. So I think the views are varied nationally. But, the one thing we know for sure is that, it's going to be another strong year in the Big Ten. I mean, there's just a lot of quality teams. A team like Penn State losing Lamar Stevens is obviously going to take a step back, I think. But, Rutgers brings back a lot of players, Geo Baker, and they were on the verge. And then certainly, you look at the top of the league with Luka Garza at Iowa and Illinois with Kofi Cockburn and Coburn and Ayo Dosunmu. Wisconsin brings back everyone. So you look at that, and I think those are really kind of your title contenders, right? Wisconsin, Iowa, those two programs. And we'll see where Indiana falls. It'll be interesting. But I think it's a big fourth year for Archie Miller, Jim, in that, this is entirely his team now, right? This is all his recruiting classes. So you don't have any more holdovers. So that's going to be interesting too, to see that now you have all the guys here. Do you get that complete buy-in from everyone because they're all your guys?
It's a gigantic year because of those that have said that very thing. Oh, it's not his guys. You got to wait till he gets. You got to wait. Okay, well, that wait is over. He's got them, and you have to see improvement. You have to see an offense that looks like it has a purpose, but you also have to see an offense that is successful. So yeah, you got to see improvement. I mean, he's not going anywhere if nothing happened this year contractually, but now the clock starts ticking, and he's those first 3 years they're given to you, but now the clock starts ticking, and so you're right. The proof has to be in the pudding, and unfortunately, the timing of that coincides with the Big Ten being as strong as possibly it may have ever been at any one point, because there are as many good teams top to bottom as I've ever seen, but not just that, the individual talent in that conference, unbelievable. I mean, the player of the year is almost virtually assured to come out of the Big Ten already, and that's nuts.
Yeah, exactly. And, Indiana does have that one guy, and as you mentioned, Blue Ribbon, third-team All-American, and Trace Jackson Davis. You do have that one proven star guy to build around. And now we will see if Christian Lander can make, a similar impact. But we do know this with, I think, the history of the Big Ten and the history of college basketball. I think guards, just have a harder time, particularly the point guard position, to transition as forwards do. So are we going to be putting too much on this kid to come in and kind of be the savior in the backcourt? You do know what you have with Al Durham and Rob Finney. You do know that, they've shown incremental improvement in their first 2 years. Are they impact guys, though? I don't think so. I don't think that they're guys that really scare people throughout the Big Ten, to be honest, there as the guard play. So you got to wonder, if Christian Lander can be that guy or some of the other guard reinforcements. Can Anthony Leal be that shooter? Can he be that guy that comes into a game and gets in the flare? Can Armaan Franklin get a little bit better, too? I mean, he's another guy. Smart guy, does a lot of things well in the court, but the shooting isn't there yet. Can the shooting materialize there with him? That's another guy. He showed it in flurries. He was great when he went to Bankers Life Fieldhouse, right? That was 2 of his best games of the season. Assembly Hall, not so much. So I think we've got to see improvement from a lot of guys in the backcourt. Either that or Christian Lander has to come in and be the real deal.
Yeah, player development has not exactly been stellar in the last couple of years, but that's something it's just something that's got to happen. I mean, it's you can't have one guy being good and say, oh, well, there you go, there's player development. No, that's not your best guy being good. That's not player development. That's expectation. You've got to have guys that are not expected to rise up. That's player development. And so we'll see what happens.
If you look at Al Durham's numbers, they have gotten better every year. But, I mean, have they gotten better to the rate where he's, an all Big Ten caliber guard? No. And I think that's the thing. It's
got to be above average. I mean, You're expected to be better every year. But if you rise above those expectations, that's player development. But going along at the status quo and rising as you should, that's not player development. That's just personal development.
And we'll see about Rob Finney. Listen, he's been really banged up his first 2 years of his career. He's had concussion issues, right? Last year he had the abdominal issue. I think that's kind of the other wild card there. He did tell us over the summer, right, that physically he's in the best spot he's ever been. He is on the smallest side. I think he did show last year that he could, shoot a little bit in some games. He's their best ball handler. He's their best, passer probably. We'll see what Christian Lander's impact is, but he was their best passer last year. So I think he's another guy too that maybe the light comes out and maybe him and Lander playing together and Lander spelling him. It takes a little pressure off him.
Absolutely. Speaking of Rob Finney, happy birthday to him. Today's his birthday, as well as it is for Todd Meyer and Chris Reynolds, all former Indiana basketball players. Chris Reynolds, member of that vaunted 94, 93, those teams in the 90s with Leary and Grahams and Pat Graham, Greg Graham, Chaney, and all those guys. And, of course, Todd Meyer was a member of the 1987 National Championship team. Also, Lorian Price and Bill Sternberg, their birthday's coming up, so happy birthday to them. Looking forward to that. Tomorrow on the program, let's see, it's Kyle Nedripp coming in. We're going to catch up with the Indiana high school football as we have reached I think this is the last week of the regular season coming up on Friday before the playoffs start. So we're at the end of that. They've made it through somehow, so we're looking forward to that. Also, the IU basketball media day today, so we're going to have all kinds of basketball info going forward. We'll be talking to Coach Archie Miller here in a little while, as well as all the players. So all of that. So it's going to be a little bit of basketball starting to move forward now, Kevin.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think that, listen, this is a basketball state, as we've said. Tom Allen is trying to make it a football state too. But I think a lot of people are excited, about what year 4 could bring under Archie Miller for the Hoosiers. It's just going to be a question of, whether they can move up in the standings in a competitive Big Ten and, whether they can, break through and make the NCAA tournament, which, listen, they were in position to make it last year. We know what happened. The rug was pulled out of everyone for COVID. But they were a little teetering, you know what I mean? You would like to be next year a little bit more comfortable in March, and certainly a tough schedule when you look at, they're going to start with Providence in the Maui/Asheville, North Carolina Classic now, moving stateside, and, a chance to possibly play Texas and maybe even North Carolina in that final year.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a fun day. Look forward to doing it again tomorrow. Dustin DePere will be in and Cal Nedripp as well. We got plenty of IU basketball coming up tomorrow. If you're listening in Evansville, Dan Gursky's up next. But thanks a lot to everybody here. Mike DeCourcy, as always, and to Kevin Brockway. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. Make sure you wear your mask. Do something nice for somebody. And until then, I am Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.